Welcome to the Heart of Mathematics. Today I'll be discussing solving quadratic equations. I'll be doing these two problems, and I'll start with the first. X squared plus 8x plus 15 is equal to 0. Now the first thing you have to do when you want to solve a quadratic equation is to get all the terms on the one side and get a 0 on the other side. Okay, and the second thing we're going to do is we're going to factorize the side with all the terms. So what we do is I take the 15 here, the one without the x, and the x squared, and I get multiples of the 15. So I say 3 times 5 will give me 15, minus 3 and minus 5 will give me 15. But now I have these two sets of numbers that will give me 15. But now I have to see which one of those gives me 8 if I add them. So I see minus 3 minus 5 gives me minus 8. And minus 8 is not equal to 8. But 3 plus 5 gives me 8. So I know that's what I have to use. So now what I can do is I can say x plus 3 times x plus 5 is equal to 0. Or I can say x plus 5 times x plus 3 is equal to 0. So now I've factorized these two equations. So now if I multiply it out, I say x times x is x squared, and then I say plus 3x plus 5x is 8x, and plus 3 times 5 is 15. So I know the factorization is correct. So now what I can do is I can say x plus 3 is equal to 0, or x plus 5 is equal to 0. So now I have to solve both. So on the left I have x plus 3, and on the right I have 0. So my goal is to get x equal to some number. So now what I do is I can subtract 3 on the left hand side to get rid of that plus 3. But because I did it on the left, I also have to do it on the right. So I subtract 3 on the right, and what I'm left with is x, and plus 3 minus 3 is just 0, is equal to, and 0 minus 3 is equal to minus 3. Or what I can do is, now I have to solve the x plus 5 equal to 0. So now to get rid of that 5, I subtract 5 on the left hand side, but because I subtracted minus 5 on the left hand side, I also have to subtract 5 on the right hand side. So what I'm left with is x plus 5 minus 5 is 0, so I'm left with the equal sign, and 0 minus 5 is just minus 5. So I have my two answers of x equal to minus 3 or x equal to minus 5. So now to check my answer, I say x squared, so I'm going to start with the minus 3, so minus 3 to the power of 2 plus 8 times minus 3 plus 15 is equal to, now minus 3 to the power of 2 is just 9. 8, so I add, but 8 times minus 3 is minus 24, and I add 15. So now that is equal to 9 plus 15 is equal to 24, and now I have the 24 left, and that is equal to 0. So I know my answer of x equal to minus 3 is correct because I get 0 on the right hand side. Now to test the second answer, so now I say minus 5 to the power of 2 plus 8 times minus 5 plus 15 is equal to, now minus 5 to the power of 2 is equal to 25. Now 8 times minus 5 is minus 40, and plus 15. Now what I'm left with is 25 plus 15 is 40, minus the 40 that's left there is equal to 0. So I know that my two answers of x equal to minus 3 or x equal to minus 5 is correct. So now I'm going to start with the second equation, which is x squared. So I have x squared plus 6x is equal to 16. So now my first thing that I have to do when I work with quadratic equations is get all the terms on one side. So it will be much easier to take the 16 to the left than it would be to take the x squared and the plus 6x to the right hand side. So what you must try and do is get a plus sign on the x squared, so not minus x. Then you have to just take them to the other side, all three terms. So to get rid of this 16, I subtract 16 on the right hand side. But because I subtracted 16 on the right hand side, I also have to subtract 16 on the left hand side. So what I'm left with here is x squared plus 6x minus 16 is equal to, now plus 16 minus 16 is just 0. And there I have it in the form that I can work with it. So now my goal is to factorize this equation. So now what I do is I take the term without the x or the x squared, and I get multiples, two numbers that if you multiply them, they give you minus 16. So I have minus 8 times 2, that gives me 16. I have 8 times minus 2. I have 16 times minus 1. I have minus 16 times 1. I have 4 times minus 4. And I have minus 4 times 4. I apologize if I forgot any of the multiples of minus 16. So now I have these sets of two numbers that if multiplied give me minus 16. But now I have to see which one of these gives me plus 6. So now I look, minus 16 minus 1 is 15. That doesn't give me 6. Minus 16 plus 1 is minus 15. That doesn't give me the 6. 4 minus 4 doesn't give me 6. Minus 4 plus 4 doesn't give me 6. Minus 8 plus 2 doesn't give me 6. It's minus 6. But that 8 minus 2, that is 6. So now what I can do is I can say x plus 8 times x minus 2 is equal to 0. So because if I multiply it out, I say x times x, which is x squared, and then I can say 8 times x, which is just plus 8x, and then I can say minus 2 times x, which is minus 2x, and 8 times minus 2 is minus 16. So what I'm left with here is x squared plus 8x minus 2x, which is just 6x, minus 16 is equal to 0. So I have my original equation of x squared plus 6x is equal to 16. So now I must set each term equal to 0. So now I say it is x plus 8 is equal to 0, or, it's not and, it's or, because they can't both be true at the same time. It's x plus 8 equal to 0, or it's x minus 2 equal to 0. They can't both, if I have one number for x, both of these equations can't be true at the same time. So I'm going to start with the left hand one, the x plus 8 equal to 0. So now to get rid of that 8, I subtract 8 on the left hand side, but because I did it on the left, I also have to do it on the right. So I subtract 8 on the right. So what I'm left with is x. Now 8 minus 8 is 0, so I have an equal sign, and then 0 minus 8 is just minus 8. Or, now, to get rid of that minus 2, I must add 2 on the left hand side. But because I added 2 on the left, I also have to add 2 on the right. So add 2 on the right. So now I'm left with x. Minus 2 plus 2 is just 0, so I have an equal sign there, and then 0 plus 2 is just 2. So our final answer is x equal to minus 8 or x equal to 2. And you must remember, if you have x squared, it's very likely that you'll have 2 answers for your x. And what we can also see, or what's a general rule, is if you have no number in front of the x, so if you don't have like 5 or 6, you have just x squared, then the x in the 2 brackets that you made will have a 1 in front of it. It will only be x. It won't be like 2x plus 8 and 3x plus 8. The next video I'm going to discuss how you'll solve an equation with a number in front of the x squared. So now I'm just going to test my answer to see if it's correct. So now I substitute the x into x squared plus 8x minus 16 is equal to 0. So now I say minus 8 squared plus 6 times minus 8 minus 16. So now 8 minus 8 squared is 64, and 6 times minus 8 is minus 48, and I'm left with minus 16 is equal to now 64. Now minus 48 minus 16 is equal to, so what I do is I say 8 plus 6 is just 14. Now 4 plus the 1 is 50, so it's minus 50 minus 14, which is minus 64, and I'm left with 0. So I know the 1x, the x equal to minus 8, is the right answer. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to test the x equal to 2, so it's 2 squared plus 6 times 2 minus 16 is equal to, now 2 squared is just 4, 6 times 2 is 12, so plus 12 minus 60. Now 4 plus 12 is 16, and then I'm left with minus 16 is equal to 0. So I know my answer of x equal to 2 is correct for this equation. So my two answers for the second problem is x equal to minus 8 and x equal to 2. Thank you guys for watching, and remember, you're a lot smarter than your calculator, and please consider subscribing and remember the bell icon.